Good evening. It is Tuesday, the 2nd of May now, 2023, and you're back after a short hiatus with the Tiger Town podcast. I'm Zac, he's Toby. Welcome back. Toby, how you going, mate?
Yeah, I'm back. I was a bit out and down and out last week, so we couldn't really do last week's pod. But who knows if we had have done it, who knows what would have happened on Saturday. So maybe if we lose this weekend, maybe this is the last pod we ever do. So,
Yeah, the sicknesses hit the podcast studio hard last week, didn't they? We were both out of action for quite some time.
Yep. Just beautiful winter weather coming through and just makes you a bit sick after a while. But give me the cold. So
Winter must be coming, mate. We're both sitting here in sloppy joes, as it were. I've got a hat on. It's not overly cold. It's certainly very comfortable weather.
No, it's a little bit cold out my way. I'm a little bit out west. It's single digits this morning. So,
well, yeah, you're down that low. You're down to singles already.
yeah, we were single digits this morning. So, yeah,
Goodness gracious,
bit of the old smoky breath.
We've got a bit of that coming on the north side of Brisbane there next week, I think. So I hate to think what you guys are looking at next week. We must have a bit of a front coming through.
Yeah, apparently it's going to get pretty bloody cold up here. But I'm sure our listeners really give two shits about the weather in Brisbane. So,
that was the Weather Town podcast. Thanks very much for tuning in.
Yep, we'll see you later.
I reckon, based upon that, the weather in Bathurst last week on the weekend looked like it was a little bit chilly too. Must be all around the country. We're heading into sweet, sweet autumn.
Yep, and maybe this is the perfect temperature. Maybe the boys were just a bit too hot for the first 7 or 8 rounds. Maybe they needed to cool down a fair bit to actually put on a performance.
Yeah, there you go. Who knows? Maybe driving rain and single-digit temperature numbers is exactly what the doctor ordered for the West Tigers in 2023, eh?
Well, let's hope it continues to happen.
On the weekend, on Saturday, and apologies to viewers and listeners as well, I actually, on the Facebook post that I put up, letting everybody know that we were out of action for the week last week and unable to do the pod, I did put a notification that the game was on at 5:30. Evidently it wasn't, and I found that out at about 5:25 on Saturday. So it shows exactly where my head was at when I made that post. So apologies for anybody if they made detailed plans based upon our singular Facebook post, but I dare say
no one did.
I dare say nobody did, but nonetheless, the error was corrected, or consider it corrected at this point. 7:30 on Saturday. West Tigers, first win of the season, got the win over the defending premiers, none other than the defending premiers, who are missing, they're missing a couple of forwards, but basically had all their big key guns in. So it was hardly a origin depleted side or any description. As has been the past when we've played some big guns and got some upset victories, that has been the get out of jail free card. We beat the Penrith Panthers at majority full strength, I'd say, minus a couple, 12-8 in the driving rain at Bathurst. Mate, if you could give us just a bit of a single thought, what are your thoughts on the game? Obviously, we'll get into the ins and outs and the nitty gritty of that game. There's a lot of good things to talk about, good feels and everything else as well. But what caught your eye?
Oh, mate, couple of tears caught my eye. I'm not even lying. I think I cried a little bit at the end of that because it's just been a long, hard slog for us fans. Look, we'll get into, like you said, we'll get into the nitty gritty stuff and we'll get into, performances and things like that. But yeah, the thing that stood out for me overall was just the determination and the heart. There was numerous times when they were parked in our end, like bar that first try. I mean, they had one opportunity, they went over, and I was like, okay, here we go again. But apart from that, they were parked in our end, a considerable amount of time at times, and we kept turning them away. I kept showing up for each other. We kept, leading by example, and I say that in terms of the forwards. Like I don't think Clemmer's actually had a bad game for us, if I'm being honest. I don't think he's ever not reached triple figures. He's not dynamic. He's not, he's not going to create that amazing offload. He's not a Payne Haas or anything like that. But he does what he needs to do and he does it well. He led by the front. I think he ran over 200 meters.
He did 215, I think, from memory.
It's ridiculous from a front rower.
That's outrageous numbers. I would like to see the last time that a front rower ran for that many meters, and meters per minute too, because he's not playing 80 minutes as you don't expect front rowers to do, but he plays a good 50, 55 minutes most games. So those are big numbers. That's a big return on investment for the time he's on the field, eh?
Oh, 100%. And then how his front row partner, Steph, he's starting to hit his form again. His last 3 games he's just led by example. He's led from the front. He's been aggressive. He's been angry. It's like, I'm sick of losing. I'm going to try to do everything I can to turn this game around.
So there you go. Clemmer played 47 minutes and ran for 215 meters.
Do the maths there. How many meters is that a bloody minute? Like 50 meters.
Yeah, well, it's over 4 meters a minute.
Yeah,
4.5 meters a minute, which doesn't really mean much in NRL terms, I guess. But that's an astonishing.
How many runs did he have?
Return on investment. He had. Let's see if we can find that here. Where are we? Hang on, give me a moment to sift through. We actually had, from memory, 6, is it? 6 forwards ran over 100 meters, and I'll run through them quickly now. We had Steph ran for 126 off 11 carries. That's pretty fantastic. Clemmer had 23 carries in 47 minutes. So he was averaging a run every 2 minutes, which is at least one run one run every set that we had whilst he was on the field.
And he was making an average of 10 meters every run.
He was making just about 10 meters every run. Yeah, that's incredible. Papali'i, 11 runs for 101. Bateman just shy at 11 runs for 88. Fanua ran for over 100 again, 13 runs for 114. Off the bench, we had Joffa, 13 runs for 119. Twal, who I thought was actually exceptional, particularly in attack, after me giving him a bit of grief for being a plotter of late. He had 16 runs for 173 metres.
Yep.
And that would have to be off the bench. That's astronomical. That is one hell of an effort off the bench there for Twally. So he played 55 minutes off the bench as well. So he did put in some good minutes. So just some big numbers there, some big meterage, and in the wet as well, where often defensive lines can compress and they can shorten the distance you can get, because spinning the ball obviously is a bit of an issue. Waiting for a bit of a refocus there. We also, in the backs, we had Buller run for 102, Noffa 145, Staffatoa 164, and Junior Tupou ran for 126, and Naden, who we probably agree had probably one of his worst games. He even ran himself for 98 metres, so just shy. So, we had, That's 10 players, nearly 11 running over 100 metres in a single game. A game in the driving wet on a muddy track against the best defensive team in the competition. Quite the performance.
And, you've been very vocal of the fact that the stats they just don't reflect the results, because we've been doing well in terms of almost every aspect of the game bar scoring points. Something clicked again. And I said this against, who did we play before that? Oh, Manly. No, it wasn't Manly, it was Parramatta. It was a Parramatta.
Manly by Parramatta, if we're backtracking.
It was the Parramatta game. I remember vividly saying that it was like somebody whispered in Brooks' ear exactly what he needed to do, and so he did it in that second half. I didn't think he was horrible against Manly. I thought he did okay. We didn't get a chance to review the Manly game because we were both sick. I thought he did okay, but yeah, it's not a stretch to say that Brooks probably had the man of the match performance on Saturday. I think he controlled the game very well.
Yeah, it was. And it was big moments, I think, for Brooks as well. He made his moments count. And that's exactly the thing that we've been talking about. Those 40-20s, he nailed them. They were 2 from 2. And those are big turnaround momentum swingers. He had that try assist as well. It's
picking the right options.
It's owning those big moments, yeah.
Yeah, I think I said to you in the chat, he's 90% of the time he was picking the right choice, where recently it's been the opposite. 90% of the time he's picking the wrong choice. So I don't know whether it's a confidence thing or whether it is, but I still, it's still not enough for me to be confident that he should stick around at all. One game doesn't do that for me. But I've definitely seen improvement from him over the last 3 weeks, and that definitely, that definitely was summed up in that performance against Penrith. But
yeah, he had a good game.
yeah,
And we've been waiting for that for quite some time. And Tim Sheens, I think, asked several weeks ago, what do people want him to do? Do they want him to set up 1,000 tries and do all this sort of stuff? And obviously that was a silly throwaway line, and it wasn't particularly smart from him, but he did on the weekend what we want him to do.
Yeah.
We want him to just have his moments count and put his imprint on the game, not even dominate the game, but be able to do for our side what a playmaker should do, which is swing momentum in our favour during key moments and be able to execute when it's required. And he was able to do that. We only scored 2 tries, but it must be remembered that it was a heavy track against the best defensive team in the competition, the defending premiers.
Yeah.
Those guys, it's going to be hard to score at the best of times against them. Against Manly, what do we have against Manly? We have 4 tries, or 3 tries.
I think it was 4 apiece.
4 apiece, and we lost on goal kicking. So, I think that Wakeham and Brooks as a halves pairing, and we'll probably end the chat about the halves not too long after this, because we always tend to bang on about the halves, and there's a lot more to talk about from that game on the weekend. But I actually think that Wakeham is doing a lot of little things, subtle things that are proving a good little foil for Brooks. And you'll notice that Wakeham does do his fair share of kicking, and I think that in and of itself is quite helpful. And I think that the ball does find its way to Wakeham down in the N20 a little bit on semi-regular occasions, and that in and of itself takes a little bit of the heat off Brooks. I still think the decision-making still needs improvement. We still got caught with the ball a couple of times. There was a bad pass that went to Brooks. I think that he was flat out just picking it up off his bootlaces, and then he got wrapped up and tackled. So, look, it's not perfect. This is a slow burn. But, yeah, I think those two have the capacity to work at least as well together as Dwayne and Brooks for mine, without probably only missing that little bit of individual brilliance that we might see from Adam Dewey from time to time. But maybe the plus side of that is we might see a little bit more of some team performances out on that edge. So I'm really happy for Brooks. It was really great to see. It's infuriating, like many people have said, because as people, the longer his career's gone on, people have started to doubt whether he ever had it in the first place. But it just takes a game like that he pulls out of his backside every now and again to go, this bloke could have been so good.
Yeah.
He's such a gifted footballer. And 28 years of age, we've got 2/3 of a season left to go this year. Let's see if those two at least can try to build something and just consolidate what they've done. We're not expecting them to be world beaters. As we look across the rest of the squad, I think I mentioned Naden earlier. Is probably the only one that stood out that having an off night. It's a shame. He's only just come back from a collarbone. We both said that he was quite a force and was actually really locking down one of those centre spots and proving to be an awesome thread down the edges for us before he did that not collarbone, but AC joint, in the shoulder. So he definitely had an off night, and now he can sit out for another couple of weeks as well. So that was a shame. But across the park, we had just great performances, and trying to pick something like a 3-2-1, for example, quite a difficult proposition. If we look at the backs first, what did you like amongst the backs in the back five?
We're all going to say the Buller is obviously starting to live up to expectations of what we've heard about him. So we won't go, you can go deeper into him if you'd like. I think more than enough people have given their point of view on him. For me, it was actually Tar. I think that was his best performance in a long time, because he had a couple of good performances for us last year, but that was his best performance by far. He was
Yeah,
defending
and
well.
you've been pretty scathing on Toa, rightly so, in the past. I think he's been a bit of a bunny for you, and someone who his performances can have the habit to stand out like dog's nuts, I guess,
Yeah.
when they're not going the way that we expect.
No, exactly. And that was very pleasing to see that, I think, we've probably agreed upon that he is a center. He can't, like, he makes very poor decisions on the wing, but he leads by example in the center position. So he does have his best games there. But almost everything he did, like, it was the one percenters that impressed me. He was up in the face. He was bringing his winger with him. He was reading the play very, very well. And that's not an easy thing to do when you're matched up against. I believe he was on Crichton's side.
Mm.
Yeah, not an easy thing to do against pretty pretty world class center. But he kept him very quiet, very, very quiet.
Was he on? No, I think he was on Peachy's side because Peachy was the one that pushed him in the back at the end. Naden was on Crichton's side.
Oh, Naden was. We'll see. Naden
Yeah,
defended well. He had off hands that
yeah,
for my liking. I think he defended well.
yeah. Well, we've seen the form that Crichton's in. I mean, he single handedly nearly beat the Rabbitohs the week prior.
Mm.
And he was kept really well under wraps there on the weekend from Naden. So yeah, as much as Naden, he had that brain snap, which is really costly, which he's got to get out of his game.
Yeah, he does.
And
He does that a bit, unfortunately.
and like you said, his hands let him down. I actually think it was his timing. I think in both those situations he was in the wrong position. The first one he was too flat off the pass, and the pass went slightly behind him because he was too flat. And I think the second one he was too deep, and the ball went in front or it flew past him or something like that. So that I think that was actually just rustiness, unfortunately. But he's going to be rusty again in a few weeks when he comes back. He's just copped a 3-week ban for that silly brain snap. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's the end of the silliness from Naden, and we can get that consistent player back. I've got to agree with you on Toe. I think Toe played quite well. I think the area that he has improved in the centres. I don't think anybody ever really doubted his ability at the line with his footwork and his strength. He's actually got quite a good fend on him, and he's strong chest up. You watch him in contact, he'll often bump the first player off. He's often then stationary and gets swallowed up, but we saw on the weekend he's able to slice through and get past people, and he did the same thing against Manly. You saw that scored that solo try in the centres. So I think he's unsuspectingly quick off the mark and unsuspectingly strong. So if he can continue that, then the more the better. I'm happy. I'm happy with him in centres at the moment. He's doing a very serviceable job. To go back to the sentence I said a moment ago, the area that I think he's improved the most is his defence. His defence, not so much decision making on the wing like we spoke about, but his defence at centre has improved thus far. Touch wood. I think that was the area that was the big issue, and it was the one-on-ones that he was missing. Not so much maybe the decision making at centre, but it was slipping off one-on-one tackles. So he may race in, he may slide, but then he wasn't particularly reliable to nail his man. And in centres, we all know how fundamental that is. So
Yeah.
I think that was particularly pleasing. I think the back five just in general worked reasonably well. What I do like, and well, I'll get to talking about Buller in a minute, but I like that none of them had superstar games in the back five, but they were particularly solid. And the reason I say I like that is it wasn't one person, like a gun fullback, like a Tedesco in the past, carrying our team. All five of them are reasonably unheralded. Obviously, Nofaluma's has been around for quite some time, but certainly Toa, Buller, and Tupou, quite unheralded players, quite inexperienced players, quite young players. I think Toa's only 22 himself. Tupou being 20 and Jerome Buller's 21. Toa's been around for a long time. So these guys just performing like first graders and doing a good job, playing good, consistent football. They got their sets started really well, and they capitalised on their chances. So, yeah, all that stuff was really, really pleasing to see. Nofaluma had a good game. Nofaluma ran hard. Nofaluma ran straight. And I think as long as he continues to do that, we all know what a finisher he can be. And we hope that can continue, because if he's heads up, if he's tail's perked up and his butt's wagging, then we know that he's playing good footy. So long may that continue. Tupou, the last couple of games, hasn't had the barnstorming effort that he did against the Eels, but gosh, you can't repeat that every week. He's not John Alomu. but he's still playing some good footy.
Yeah, no, I agree. And he's, 20 years old. He's, he's going to have those ups. He's going to have those downs. But the thing is, his downs aren't really down from what so far. It's just he's had sensational efforts and then he's just been very solid. So that's not a bad thing to be.
No.
If that's
As a winger, if you're making over 100 metres and you're taking all your high balls,
what else do we need?
yeah, you're doing your
Scoring
job.
tries. Scoring tries would be nice, but
Yeah, but in games like, tight games like that, opportunities don't come your way, then that's all you're hoping for. So on to Buller, and I guess the same sentiment is something that really strikes me. It's hard to wax too lyrical about Buller being a superstar because I don't believe he's a superstar, most certainly not yet. But what I do like about him is he seems very, very calm, and he seems certainly up to the task, and he does everything that is required in his second game of football. He's in the right spot at the right time. He's able to chime into the back line, throw the right pass under pressure in a high tense situation in poor weather. He's in the right spot to catch all the bombs in wet weather footy against one of the best kickers in the game. He's able to make effective covering tackles and try saving. He just did it all. And he did it all, I don't want to say nonchalantly, but it wasn't fanfare. It wasn't, and I'll go back to Tedesco again because he's probably the last real fullback we've had. And the two, at least at that point in time, were very chalk and cheese. Tedesco would beat three people and then he'd pirouette through someone else and he'd throw a big cutout ball to somebody out on the wing for a try. Tedesco was flair and talent and superstar quality straight off the bat, and he had to build his game. Jareen just seems like somebody who has a very simplistic and high quality game, but without all the fanfare. And what I think that allows him to do is have a really solid platform among all areas of the game. He can already pass, he can already kick. He forced that drop goal in the in goal there. He can make covering tackles, so his defense is good. He seems to be organising the defense pretty well. He's safe under the high ball. He's able to get plenty of meters out of the backfield when we're returning the ball. So I don't know, at least for now, from what we've seen in the limited amount of time we've seen, he doesn't seem to have any glaring weaknesses, and he seems to be pretty solid across the board, which is really, really pleasing, because all that makes me think is he's just going to get better and better and better. And other things that might hamstring certain players or key weaknesses that hold certain players back in the start of their career is something that thus far, we haven't particularly seen with him. And the example would be probably something like a Dylan Edwards, for example. In the start of Dylan Edwards' career, quite the well-rounded footballer, but his hands were woeful. And that really held him back for a number of years until he got to the point where he was actually able to become one of the safest fullbacks in the game. And what does he do? He goes and wins Clive Churchill medals and wins premierships. And I don't know, did he win fullback of the year? If not, he would have gone pretty close. Close. Constantly in the discussion for being one of the best three fullbacks in the game at the moment. And that took him time because he had glaring weaknesses. I'm not saying he's the same player, Buller, but what I'm saying is that I don't see any great deficiencies in his game right now, which shows me he's ready for first grade, which is exciting to me because it means we can plonk him in first grade and develop whilst he's there, because it's not like a Tyrell Sloan whose defense is quite suspect at times, who we happen to be playing this weekend. I'm sure that the Dragons would love to keep Sloan in there full time, and I'm sure he's in there now, but he's had to be dropped over the period of time because he's had these glaring weaknesses that have really been shown up at a first grade level and been hard to allow him to sit in first grade and develop in first grade. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
100%, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I find particularly impressive about Buller. It's nothing flashy over the top. It's not no-look passes. It's not an erratic sidestep. It's not pure, utter individual brilliance. It's just a really, really, really solid player at such a young stage in his career. And I really, really like it. I just think, look, thus far from what we've seen, it's really, really encouraging signs. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens moving forward.
Yeah, me too. I think, look, I think we've got, at this present point in time, and there's something else that I kind of want to, I'll move on from the backs because we've gotten to the backs. We've talked about that. And I want to talk a little bit about Appy. And, I was critical of Appy at the start. And now that I look back at it, I shouldn't have been critical at Appy. I should have been critical at everyone else because they weren't up to his level. And that's exactly what you said when I was critical of it. But what I've seen now, and especially in that Penrith game, is it feels like now we're playing Appy style of football. We're not playing Tiger style. We're not playing this. We're not playing, flashy, this is what the Tigers are known for. We're playing Appy style football, which suits him the best. And that's what we need to do because he's a world-class dummy half. That's what happened with like the Storm. The Storm played Cameron Smith style football. And that's why they were so successful. And that's what I think we're starting to do now. I saw it.
And when you say that, you're talking about them being the centerpiece of the attack. And
Yes.
you still, and we spoke about that 3 weeks ago. I said,
Yeah.
I think I mentioned that we saw parts of it in the Broncos game or maybe the Eels game. I think it was the Broncos game, and that we hopefully will expect to see more of it. And what I think you're saying is what I was talking about that week, where it's not that Appy is coaching, but we are using Appy as the centerpiece of the attack.
Yeah.
Everything comes off him. He's the best. He's the best player in the side, as you said last week. He is our best player. He's our most experienced player. He's a 3-time premiership winner. He's the incumbent New South Wales dummy half. And we're seeing that a little bit more and more. And we did speculate that that's the way we think it might go because you couple a hooker of that quality, arguably the best in the game, him and Harry Grant. It's neck and neck. Maybe Damien Cook, best 3 for sure. You couple that with a forward pack that, on its day, could be the best in the comp. Could be the best. It's certainly in the top 5, particularly when we're playing well. So I couldn't agree more. And I think I'm disappointed it took so long for them to figure that out. But I think very quickly they're learning where their strengths lie. And rather than trying to play an artificial or an arbitrary style a la Tim Sheens, they're actually starting to play to their strengths, which is what the best teams do. This is what Melbourne Storm does so well. You mentioned Cameron Smith before. The centerpiece of their attack for a long time. Billy Slater out the back, Cooper Cronk there marching the troops around and giving orders. But then when they had the big overhaul of all their different types of players, they had to reinvent and find a new style. And they started to use a lot of smaller stuff around off-the-cuff work when Munster came in and became a key role maker. Offload started to go up with them a lot more. They played a lot more broken field. That went second, went hand in hand, with Pappenhausen coming on the scene and being a lightning and just absolute lightning in a bottle around that loose ruck area. And so Melbourne Storm as a team, and it's no mystery why they're so successful, are able to pivot and come up with game plans, not only against the opposition they're playing any given week, but based upon the squad they have at their disposal. And in my opinion, it's what the best coaches do. They actually have a look and go, well, who have we got? Not here is a plug and play. This is the style of football I want to play, and I hate that language. And as much as I like Madge as a character and I like what Madge stood for, I think that was one of his biggest issues. Is Madge has a style, and he kept trying to find players to fit that style, and he kept trying to coach the players that he had to fit that style. And that's why so many coaches these days worry about, and you hear that expression of a roster assembled by somebody else. Who cares? Every NRL roster has strengths and weaknesses, and the best coaches play to the strengths, and they hide or they erase their weaknesses. And I think that's what we're starting to see.
Well, perfect example of that is Wayne Bennett and the Dolphins. Perfect.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, Wayne Bennett, he still to this day is not signed a marquee player, but they're in the top 8. They're 5-4 or 5-5.
They're in our spot now. They're 9th.
Oh, they're 9th now, are they? Oh, forever 9th.
Yeah, but the best part of the season they've been there, and lightning start of the season.
Yeah, and for a while there, they were, head to head with the Broncos on top of the ladder because Wayne Bennett was playing to their strengths, and their strengths were their back row. Their strengths were their speed out the back, and that's what they were playing towards. They weren't just sitting there going, I need you to do 3 hit-ups, I need you to push it left, I need you to do this. No, this is, you've got this strength. How are we going to, utilize that? How are we going to expand on that? So, but yeah, no, 100% agree.
Yeah, and long may it continue, because if that becomes the style, and I think it's so much more organic, and I would like to think that this is Benji, who is obviously a much younger person, much more modern mind, recognizing and has worked under Bennett for what you're talking about, the best coaches in the game.
Yeah.
Sheens, obviously, but Bennett. Sheens is Sheens, as much as the success that he's had, Sheens was always a creative. So what I mean by that is he would break new barriers with new moves and new set plays and all that sort of stuff, but it was all pre-rehearsed stuff. This was a guy that was writing musicals for his actors to perform. This wasn't a bloke who was in charge of an impromptu troupe. They're up on doing impromptu performances on stage. These weren't people that are making up stuff on the spot. What's that called? Improv.
Yeah.
Improv. And so what I think someone like Benji, who's seen more of a Wayne, is what we're talking about, or he's worked under Bennett as well, is he's taken the best of everything. And I would like to think that he's applying a little bit more of that logic. So rather than go from Sheens's line of thinking, how do we reinvent the wheel in 2023? What is a new fancy set play no one's seen before to throw people off? They're starting to realise, let's just simplify things by going straight at the strengths. And what are the strengths? The strength is a forward back, the strength is Apisai Coruscant. Then how do we get the halves playing off the back of that? What do the halves need to do to complement that sort of game? Who do we need to have at the back? Okay, what do our wingers and our centres need to look like? Are we looking for speed? Do we want size? And all those sorts of things, and how we can sort of reverse engineer off that main linchpin at the top, which, as we've mentioned several times already, is Appy.
Yeah. No, and that's, like you said, let's hope this continues, and let's hope that, and it's fair to say that it will, because we've seen it develop over the last 3 weeks. We've seen it start to evolve. And I think that, it's come down to the fact that not so much that they've realized that, because they're not idiots. They would have realized that, you need to essentially build things around your best player and, play to their strengths and do this and do that. But it's just more that they're not trying to shoehorn things in like they kind of they promised a more flamboyant, flashy, attacking, rah, rah, rah. And that kind of felt like at the start of it, they were trying to make that happen, like you said, inorganically. It was like, it's not playing to their strengths. We don't have those players. Brooks has never been that player, no matter what you say. Like, yes, he may have won halfback of the year, but he was playing 5'8" that year just with the number 7 on his jersey.
They were trying to plug new software into an old computer.
Very good analogy. Very good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it works and it works fine, and other times
crashes.
It just doesn't do what it needs to do. And that's not to say that the squad was old and broken. In fact, it's been relatively new, but you can't just in one off season take a brand new style of football and plug it into a side that you've only just taken the reins of. Doesn't make any sense. You got to feel that side out first.
Exactly. But yes, overall, I think we can both say that we were very, very happy Saturday night.
Yeah.
Very pleased. I watched the replay.
Most definitely.
I think almost a dozen times now. I think I've watched the replay. Not the full match, just the highlights.
Yeah, me too. I plan on watching the full match after this podcast. I might put it on and go to sleep to it. So
yeah.
Sometimes smile on my face and drift off.
I do that with Rabs and 05, just listening to Rabs' voice over the top.
Yeah, like our intro song, eh?
It's great. I love it.
Yeah, love it every time.
But yeah, I think I've got not much else to say about that game, to be honest. I was, like I said, pleased with the heart, pleased with the determination, pleased with the style of football we were playing. I was also pleased with the football intelligence that I saw. And I'll put one very specific moment, and it was the very final kick from Brooks. Now, we know Brooks's end-over-end kicks, not a fan of them. They don't really offer much. And, they're getting a bit better because they're getting more positioned. But that last kick was a very, very smart football play. He made sure that it went dead so that Dylan Edwards would have to run all the way back for it. Didn't matter about the 7 tackles, didn't matter about anything. It meant that they had to go, 80 meters to score, but he wound the clock down by at least an extra 5 seconds. And that
Not only that, but all their players had to get back behind the 20 for the play to restart. So, yeah, 100%. It was a smart play. And that wasn't the only one. They were kicking for the sideline earlier in the game. They were kicking early. And I think that's where a few of the 40-20s came from. The game plan was just better.
Yeah, the first one, I think, was tackle 3, the first 40-20.
Hey,
So
one thing that we're not particularly known for, and against a team like Penrith, it was spectacular to see, was how much they were getting up off their line um, to pin Penrith down. There was moments where Penrith was stuck inside their 20 and only just got out around to the 30-meter mark at the end of their set and had to kick from well within their half. They were doing that regularly, and Penrith were trying to reverse it on us. We were far more effective at it.
Hmm.
They just wanted it more, and we have said this, to use a phrase you like to use time and time again. We've said it ad nauseum that a team's effort and a team's effort play can come down to a couple of things. Line speed being one of the biggest, most glaring things.
yeah,
And line speed in the last month has been a vast improvement for how we started the season. And I know that if the line speed is there, even if they're not going ballistic, but they're still getting up and looking to make as many defense meters off the attacking set as possible, that shows me that they're there with the right attitude. And okay, rightio, well, the boys are here. Let's see how the game goes. And it hasn't played out yet. But it has shown me that those little things that we really look for, that every other team has done for eons, that we never have seemed to have done for whatever reason, are finally happening in a white, black, and orange jersey.
yeah, it's very, very pleasing to see. And I think you probably got a lot of that to be thankful, to I don't know, be grateful for I guess Ferner. Ferner's definitely I think put his stamp on that. But my interesting thing is he's been there all off season. Why wasn't from the start? But he definitely was an in your face defensive style coach back when he was at Canberra. So it is, why did it take as long as it did? But you can't go backwards, you only go forwards. Let's just hope that it just continues into the coming rounds. And it's a
I
tall.
think it's the play. I think it's the players too. I think they have very strategically chosen players that like to play that style to a degree. Bateman comes up, jams up. Coruscant, like leading the line that many times, coming up for a hit. Brooks now comes in for hits. Love's getting up off the line now. And who's the other one I was going to mention?
Steph was really getting
Yeah,
in the face.
Steph as well, same sort of thing. And all it takes is two or three people in your line to do that regularly, and it brings you with it. You and I have played enough footy to know that if nobody is doing that, even if you're somebody who recognises in the game that for a couple of tackles, you yourself, live in the game, if I get up and I get them and I hit them and I do what I need to do, if you're the only one that is thinking about that, if nobody else is doing it, it is so hard to do it that first time, because you don't want to be the person to break the defensive line, make a mistake, and then everybody else's heads drop even further. You just tend to go with the flow of traffic. Whereas if you've got two or three blokes on the team that's tapping each other on the shoulder going, this set, we're crushing these blokes, and you see one person fly out bulldog, one person fly out bulldog, one person fly out hit them, all of a sudden it brings people with them, and you get 5, 6, 7 people rushing up, putting hits on. Then you get gang tackling, then you get lifting and pushing back, and all of a sudden you're building defensive momentum. And I think that slowly, it's been a slow burn, but these boys have started to see several people in the side do it, and they've started to believe it now. And we're seeing the likes of Toa getting up and smashing people, Naden getting up and smashing people on their line. Wakeham getting up and putting his body on the line and putting shoulders into people and forcing people backwards. So it's an infectious thing. And again, something I've been saying lately a lot is long may it continue. It's a formula that they need to do. It needs to be consistent. And they're going to need to learn to do exactly these types of 1% things on a regular basis if they want to continue to trend upward in this comp.
Yeah. Look, it is a tall order now for us to make the 8. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm quite confident that we are now not the worst team in the comp, and I think we won't finish 17th. So,
yeah, look, the bottom line at the moment, I think, in my opinion, the next third of the competition, so the next 3 months, not even that, the next 2 months, we just need to stay in touch with everyone else around us. If we can do that, I think that we're in a position to look. We're hoping this year we move up the ladder. We want improvement, right? As much as we were hopeful these signings would take us straight into finals. It was always going to be probably less than a 50-50 proposition. This was always going to take time. But last year we won 4 football games. If we can win more than 4 football games, and hopefully we do, it's an improvement. If we can start to move our way a bit up the ladder, looking at things like 13th, 12th, 11th, 10th, I know it sounds like we're expecting mediocrity, but we're playing the long game here. I think if we can stay in touch with these teams and the teams around us, the 6 teams around us, the likes of the teams that are starting to drop back out again now, the Warriors are pulling back, Dolphins are pulling back. We've obviously got the Dragons, the Bulldogs, the Cowboys are down nice and low this year. We've got the Knights there or thereabouts. Some of these guys have been playing good football, but have they peaked early? Do we have the capacity to go the opposite way? And as long as we stay in touch with these teams, we have every chance of making an improvement on last year. And I think that will be enough to continue the positivity into the off season. Obviously, there's a lot of ifs, buts, and coconuts with that. But if we're getting to the end of the year and we're looking at 7 or 8 wins, it's a disappointing season, no doubt. But if that puts us into 10th or 11th, it's not as hard a pill to swallow as it was when we were staring down the barrel of 0-7, coming off a wooden spoon. Put it that way.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. Right. So, mate, speaking of the rest of the season, I guess season starts now, right?
Yeah. Everyone just start at 0 now, and we'll just go from here.
So it is important to note as well that in the last 4 games, we have played Melbourne away, we've played Brisbane away, we played Parramatta away or home, we played Manly, and then we played Penrith away. And so in all that time that we've played those teams, gun teams, I think, and I'll just double check very quickly, but I'm relatively certain. Just hold on a moment, folks. I'm just double checking some prior scores. So we lost to Parramatta by a try, effectively a try. We lost to Manly by, effectively a try. What I'll do very, very briefly is I'll go through the losses. So we lost to Titans 22-10. So chalk that one off. Lost to the Knights by 2 points. Lost to the Bulldogs by 4 points. We lost to the Storm 24-12. Broncos, they beat us soundly. They gave us a flogging. That was a touch-up. We lost to the Eels by a try, and we lost to Sea Eagles by a try, and now we've beaten the Panthers. So if you look at those teams that we've played, Panthers and the Eels, grand finalists from last year. Sea Eagles, they're still coming 5th, or 6th now, sorry. Broncos, they're on top of the ladder. And Melbourne Storm, I think they're back up into 2nd or 3rd now. So the last 5 games that we've played have all been against top 8 opposition, as much as the Eels aren't there at the moment. And the most we've lost by that Brisbane game, they gave us a good thumping. Storm got us by a couple of tries, and the Eels and the Sea Eagles, it was a try each. So, look, the last 5 games that we've played, as much, when we would agree, and if you get to add the Bulldogs game and the Knights game prior to that, the Bulldogs was 4 points, the Knights was 2 points. So, in many ways, we've been pretty awful this season, and we have been slowly building. However, we've been playing some pretty quality opposition the last 5 weeks in particular, and now we come up against a Dragons side. So I believe that this is a different proposition to when we played what we would say is a bottom 8 team. I don't think it's out of the ordinary to say that the Dragons are a bottom 8 team, as we think probably the Titans, the Bulldogs, and the Knights are to start the season. Since we played those bottom 8 teams in the 3 games to start, we've played 5, most likely top 8 teams, if not top 4 teams. Now we're coming back to playing what we think will be a bottom 8 side. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what we get on Sunday afternoon at 10 to 2, 1:50 p.m. here at Magic Round in Brisbane. I know for a fact that I think we started at $2.60 or $2.70 we were paying against the Dragons. We've now shortened into $2. So the Dragons are at $1.80 and we're at $2. Mate, what are your initial thoughts in terms of playing the Dragons this week? Let's focus, I guess, on us for now. What do you think we need to do? What are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen game-wise? What are you wary of?
Look, I think that I think that it's been very clear that to defeat the Dragons or to shut them down, you just need to get in Ben Hunt's face. They don't have enough. Like Tyrell Sloan is definitely a talent in attack. Like you mentioned before, he does have some issues in defense. But if you get in Ben Hunt's face and you put pressure on him, like that's something we did too quite well on Saturdays. We pressured Cleary a lot. We got in his face a lot. I wouldn't say he made the right decision every single time, but he is a quality half. So, he definitely adapted when he needed to. But it will go a very long way for us beating the Dragons if we can just put a lot of pressure on Ben Hunt and cut down his decision-making time. And I think that, that can be said for a lot of teams. Obviously a lot of teams have their halves that are their central focus, but the Dragons especially, they're struggling. They're almost they've like yes, they're higher than us on the ladder, but they are almost struggling more than we are because they don't have, from what I can see coming through, they don't have any glimmers of hope coming through just yet. They definitely are stagnant in their roster. They haven't been very astute in their signings in the last 3 years. They've taken a lot of our dead weight, which is quite funny. But yeah, I think that if we can continue that line speed, if we continue getting shutting down I guess taking away that attacking time and shortening the line a little bit, I think that we can definitely use our forwards to go through the middle of them. And I think that's something that we should, their front row isn't fantastic. They're not that quality. You got Molo, who's, he's a hard runner, but he can get lazy. You got Blake Laurie, who, from my eyes, is just a plotter. I think we can absolutely decimate them up the middle. And that's where we need to focus on, as well as, obviously cutting down Ben Hunt's time.
Yeah, I think we've just got to double, triple, and quadruple down on this new game plan up the middle. Like you said, I think that is our only way forward as a team. It might not be the most exciting or flary way to play football, but that is clearly our strength. And against a team like the Dragons, look, their back line is largely unknown. The Fungi brothers, Fungi. I don't know a whole lot about them, to be honest. I know Matthews played a bit more than Max, I think, but Max is in for Lomax this week. Sloan, obviously, we've spoken about his threats at the back. Ravalawa is Sivo from Wish, and Moses Sully can be.
That's pretty good.
You like that one?
Yeah, that was good.
And Sully can be threatening, but also can be lazy. So what I see in the Dragons, is a side that are erratic. And so I could see the Dragons coming out and having 3 or 4 moments of brilliance that just lead to 3 or 4 random length of the field tries. And I don't think we have that in us. So I think we've got to make sure that we keep the game pretty tight and do as you said, play it through the middle, play territory, play a really simplistic game where we beat them up and play high percentage football. I think that's our best chance. I think that this side, at least for the moment, is going to have to continue to play a lot of high percentage football and win a lot of low scoring matches. I think that against the Dragons, we most certainly can do that. I think we're capable of scoring 4 or 5 tries if things come off. And 4 or 5 tries is 20, 26 points.
Yeah, I think
20, 30 points. But sorry, you go.
I was going to say, I think we've got to earn the right to play expansive football. We haven't earned that right yet.
Yeah, exactly. And I just don't see, like, if you look at their people in their side, the Dragons, for example, their players that could do something off the cuff randomly. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sloan, Sully, Junior Ramon, Ben Hunt, Jack Bird, or Jaden Sullivan do something where I just go, and they shred through, they beat a man one-on-one, they score a try. So they've got threats. As much as those guys might not be James Tedesco's or Cameron Munsters or players that regularly break games open, I wouldn't be surprised to see any of those guys do that at one or two occasions on the weekend. Now, I certainly hope that is not the case. I just don't see that we have that in our side. I think we're much better balanced. But I think with the Dragons, you don't know what you're going to get. This side outscored in terms of tries the Roosters on Anzac Day. And then, obviously on the weekend against a depleted Bulldogs side, they couldn't get over the line. So if we can continue to play high percentage football, like I've said, play up the middle, play our brand of football, which we've spoken about at length, I'd like to think that is quickly becoming our brand of football. I think most certainly we can just beat them up through the middle and score 3 or 4 tries and get the chocolates.
Yeah, look, I've got a personal stake in this game. My old man's a Dragon supporter, and we're actually going to go watch the game together up here in Brisbane. So, look, all I want is to laugh in his face, to be honest.
You're such a good son, mate, aren't you?
I know, right? I know, right? He'll do the exact same to me if the Dragons get up. He will not let me live it down. So, look, I think, like we mentioned previously, I think it's very clear that this game plan can work. I don't want them to try to do anything flashy. I don't want them to be silly and go, oh, now that we beat one person and they were the reigning premiers, we got the right to, try this and try that and do this. The reason that you beat the premiers because you kept it simple. You played to your strengths. You worked around, you played a game that suited your best player in the team. Just keep doing that. And you know what? I think that we'll start to see quite a few wins. Not quite a few, but we'll see a few wins come together off the back of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think when we play that style of football, I think we're a side that could probably beat 6 to 8 teams in the comp semi-regularly. I think we're a side that could trouble another 3 or 4, and I think there's probably 6 or 7 sides in the competition. I don't know what the total from those numbers I just threw out. 6 or 7 sides that even if we play well to our brand of football, we're going to be flat out even trying to stay with them. Still where we are. I'm under no illusions that we're not any better than what we are. We're sitting at 1-7, for goodness sake. However, I believe that the Dragons are certainly one of those teams that if we play that style of football that we've been talking about a fair bit tonight, and we play it well, and we make sure that we control the game and play it the way we want to play it, that we can dictate turns in that sense. And I think the Dragons are the type of team that you can get on top of. I think it's fundamentally important. But I think one thing we do need to improve, and I wanted to mention this earlier, one thing that is a big issue the last few weeks has been our discipline. Now, I'm not overly happy, as I often aren't, with piggyback penalties out from certain refs. But that seemed to be non-stop the case against Penrith the other night. And we can play the game where we blame the refs. Let's be honest, they're probably just slightly overstepping the mark. They're probably just slightly missing those little 1%ers when they're trying to get too carried away to keep players or keep the opposition down in their end. Things like those constant offsides or a lazy head high, or just little things. And I think I counted 4 or 5 sets in a row at one stage that we just piggyback Penrith out of their own.
Nathan Cleary, why would you do that?
No comment on that. That's a joke. I hope that gets rectified. And rightly so. I was thrilled to see that overturned because what a ridiculous decision that was.
He's a ridiculous ref.
Anyway, so I think that's something we actually need to clean up, because if we give the Dragons ball that they don't deserve, if we keep piggybacking them down, they've got enough in them that they could put, 3 or 4 tries on us that we didn't want to have to deal with. And all of a sudden, as a side that doesn't have a lot of scoring confidence, that's going to be hard to come back from. We can't afford to do that against this type of side, or we'll walk away losers 26-12 on Sunday with another opportunity lost against a side that we should, or at least have a very good chance of beating. And that would, again, be deflating. We kept using that term, deflating, to start the year. So,
yeah, I have got literally nothing to add to that, because it definitely summed up exactly what I'm thinking as well. So,
all right, mate. Well, let's get into the way we think the game's going to play out, bold predictions, that sort of thing. What's the scoreline you've got for us? Give us a bold prediction.
Tigers 30-6.
Oof. Goodness gracious, that you said that really confidently.
Mm-hmm.
Is that with a 12 double?
Well, funny you say that. I was reading an article or one of the previews, the round 10 previews on Sportsbet, and one of their tips is that Twally will break his duck. I was like, I like this. I like this. Um, but no, it's just because last time we got there, we got beaten 30-6, and it's just going to be reversed.
36 against St George.
No. When we just last went to Suncorp, we got beaten by the Broncos 30-6, didn't we? Or was it 36-6?
This year,
Yeah.
46-12.
Okay, that's what it'll be then.
Oh, that'd be good. I don't know we'll get that many points in us, but I think if we catch fire, we can go. So you're saying 30-6, comfortable
30
victories. Is it going to be tight and then blow out at the end, or are we going to be
I think they're going to get a consolation try.
whistle will be on top? You think? Sorry, say again.
I think they'll get a consolation try.
Okay, so just going to be the boys come out and back up last week and cement themselves as a team who's on the improve.
Yep.
All right. Well, look, that'd be good to see. No arguments here. If I could lock that in, I'm certainly going to do that immediately. So
Cool. Yeah, do it. Yeah, do it. Let's see if I'm Nostradamus on this one. You tend to be.
And bold prediction.
I'm not going to say the one that I always say because we know that's just locked at standard in now. That's just a standard stock. A stock standard prediction for me until he gets one is Twally scoring a try. But bold prediction. I reckon bold prediction. Noffa will be at his best and he'll score a double.
So Noffa will be on Michaeli
Ravalawa's wing, who likes to jam in a fair bit. So
he does, yeah. He does. He most certainly does. That'd be interesting. I wonder if Buller's thinking about throwing any of those little over the top cutout balls.
How smooth was it too? So
smooth as can be. He didn't have any right to throw the ball that well. That was too good. I didn't even know he could pass.
Well, he's a basketball player.
Or kick. Yeah, well, his hands are probably better than anyone we've seen in the last 5 years for us boys. So that's exciting.
Yeah. What about yourself?
I'm going to say that Tommy Talau is going to have a cracker out in the centres, and he's going to score. He's going to score a double and run for over 150 metres. Or actually, forget the double. We'll go score. He'll score one and he'll get a try assist, but he'll run for over 150 metres with a couple of line breaks.
Has he officially signed with Manly yet?
I think he has signed with Manly as far as I know, but not officially. Hasn't been announced yet. But yeah, I think in the next week or something, we'll probably find something out. The Tigers were maybe tossing up whether or not there was some sort of player swap involved. Like they always like to have those discussions. I don't know whether that will be forthcoming now and him go across this year because of Naden now being out for another couple of weeks. We're a bit short in the centres actually, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm relatively certain that that's a done deal. So
we kind of did do a player swap, didn't we? We got we kind of did one without swapping one. We got a player. We got a talent scout, player scout. So
yeah, we got a new head of recruitment.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so I think, but I don't think it'll be off the back of him. I think he'll just run hard, and I think that Brooks or Wakeham, whoever's out on his side there, will do a bit of the setup work for him, and I think that he'll be the beneficiary of it. I think since he's come back, he's been running pretty hard, and he looks big. So I'd like to see him, score one off a crash play, and maybe get a break from about 50 out to see who's going to come up on the inside. I'm going to say Brooks up on the inside in support. Brooks will score one.
Look, won't complain either way.
And scoreline, I'm going to say 26-12, Tigers.
Well, we're both going Tigers. So,
and Wakeham to kick 5 from 5, including a penalty goal.
Well, I've got 6 from 6 with no penalty goal.
Well, there you go. All right, mate. Well, been a pleasure as always. Gosh, it feels strange. 273 days we waited for the last victory.
It was
Tigers
nice
in the NRL.
We haven't mentioned this yet, but it was nice to break that duck against Ivan. Was nice. It was.
Oh yeah, always. I think we've overachieved since Ivan shafted us in terms of us getting payback. I think based upon the form of the two sides since that happened, I think we've got more victories than we've probably earned given our positions on the table each side.
Yeah,
We had a couple of decent little victories against him, which has been good. So yeah, shove that up, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, do it.
All right, mate. Well, you're going to be at the game. I'm going to do my best to get a ticket, see if I can finagle my way in there because we're in Brisbane, of course, and I would love to go and see these boys in the flesh. We'll see how we go. 1:50 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. The boys are running out, hopefully with a little bit of a pep in their step, and they continue to play high percentage, confident football. That's what we want to see. They've shown now they can do it, and they've done it on a pretty decent stage as well. So once more, long may it continue. Public service announcement, as we always say, Facebook page, Tiger Town Podcast, YouTube, Tiger Town Podcast. A bit of consistency there. Make sure you like, subscribe, all those good things. We do get messages out during the week. We share stories, that sort of stuff as well. It's your place to obviously comment on with us and interact with the boys. If we are on Facebook, throw a few requests in and certain things and subjects you want us to talk about. We've been having some really good feedback lately in direct messages and things about people commenting on stuff we're talking about in the show. So keep that stuff up. We love it. It's awesome. It's wonderful to see that people listening, enjoying the show, and we love doing it. Obviously, when we're not feeling super ill. West Tigers podcast, West Life podcast. Those are the two shows that do it better than us. We give them a plug every single week. And hopefully sooner or later they'll return the favour, but I'm not holding my breath, but we'll have to wait and see. They do a great job, those guys, and I genuinely listen to them and look out for their shows every single week as well. Get as much Tigers content as I can. Mate, any parting words?
No, not really. Let's just continue this train rolling.
That's it.
Going, whatever.
Absolutely. I'm going to wear my jersey nice and proud this week anyway.
Yeah. I've got to see if I still fit into my jerseys. Haven't worn them in a while because I haven't felt the need to.
Good excuse for a new one, maybe the brand new Indigenous jersey 2023. How good's that?
It is bloody good. I do like that one.
It's a ripper. Yeah, mate. The chest is sticking out a little bit prouder this week. So again, long may it continue. I think that's number 6 times I've said that. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Watch the game on Sunday. Get to the game if you can get there. And as we always say, go the mighty West Tigers.
Go the Tigers.